Hi, I'm Diana,
And I'm Lavonda.
and we're Homeschoolific.
This video's focus is about the feelings and frustrations that we get while homeschooling our kids with learning challenges.
Yeah, and we both have that. So, we want to talk about the things that nobody talks about from the parent standpoint. There's definitely things that kids go through, and we'll probably touch on those things. But there's things that neither one of us are really told that would be a thing as being parents with kids with learning challenges. When we say learning challenges, we mean
Anything from dysgraphia, dyslexia,
ADHD,
ADD,
yes,
and I'm sure the list goes on.
yes, and I mean also our special needs parents. But I don't want to just kind of clump ourselves in that because while my heart just I love what you guys do and I know that it's a special job. I don't think that I'm doing as much work, so
No.
I don't ever want to, we don't want to degrade that.
No,
So.
I feel like there's a level of autonomy that our kids have that parents that have kids that are special needs don't have, and I'm sure we can all agree on that, right? They need so much more of you, and in this case, our kids need so much more from us than maybe our other kids did, and we're working through the feelings of teaching them, and the guilt,
Yes, which
and
I'm sure a lot of special needs moms also feel.
that's true.
Yeah.
But for the purpose of this video, our perspective is coming from moms who are homeschooling kids with learning challenges,
Yes.
not necessarily special needs kids.
And why didn't we say disabilities over challenges?
I don't think that some of these things are disabilities, and I think that's why I want to focus on like the type of verbiage that we use when we're talking about challenges in learning, because I do think that they can be really, and I think you've said this before, like superpowers, right?
Mm-hmm.
We just don't know how to unlock them.
Yes.
And so our job is to train ourselves on how to teach those kids that we might have that need to learn differently.
Mm.
So all abilities learning. I don't know. There's all types of names that people come up with,
Right.
for teaching our kids that have they need to learn in a different way, right? So, and it's really more about us learning how to help them.
Right. And how they can fit into the world that won't fit itself to them. And so that's more what it is. But it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with them. It just means that you got to fit into the world. And I think that people who come from a different country comes to this country and they have a different cultural background and everything like that, they also can understand that. Okay, we've over explained that. So, one of the biggest things I have dealt with and I deal with is mom guilt. And my mom guilt stems from a number of things, but I feel like it's more so that like if I don't feel like I've done enough, also too that I felt like I waited too long to get my son diagnosed.
And for me, the guilt is like especially when I was working, like I wasn't able to give enough of me. Like I'm not giving enough, or I wasn't giving enough in order to get this particular child where they needed to be. And I think that obviously we know that there's certain things that, and this is coming from a perspective of believers, right? There's certain things that the devil tells us to keep us from what God has for us, right? And so if God's telling us to operate from a place of the grace that he's given us, then we need to do that and not condemnation. So the mom guilt, while we feel it, we have to remind ourselves that that's not how. Let's walk in this place of grace that God's given us,
Yes.
but also learn and keep going.
It's so important, and to know that mom guilt does come back.
Yes.
I just had it come back to me the other day. I thought that my son was failing because for the first time ever, we've actually had help. He's at college classes at the community college. He's taking classes, and I've never had a situation where I didn't have to help him. Well, it had been a couple weeks. He had not come to me for help. And I was like, oh my goodness, I am the worst mom. He is failing his classes, and actually he's got to be average. And I thought it was very interesting that my first go-to was to beat myself up. You know what I mean? Because I have carried the mom guilt so much, and I do forgive myself, and I do practice grace, and it shows back up the moment I feel as if I have failed. And the truth is, failure will happen.
Oh, yes.
Because we're human.
Yes.
And that should be okay. But, like, I think when it comes to our kids that have challenges, we feel as if it should be less.
Right. And we want it to be, there's more guilt, I think, because we don't want it to be the other obstacle that might be standing in the way of them getting what they need.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, so you try to go above and beyond. And so, and there's nothing wrong with that, going above and beyond, because I feel like as parents, that's what we should want to do.
Yes,
right?
I agree.
But, yeah, that the mom guilt is real. And I'm glad you said that it comes in phases.
Mm-hmm.
So you know when it comes back. This is a normal feeling.
Yeah.
What do I do to combat this?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Also, look at how far they've come. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
mom guilt happens all over the place. And it's not just here. It's just very strong here.
It is.
Yeah.
The next one is feelings of not being enough or not being equipped. And man,
And that's a real one.
it is.
I mean, because sometimes you are not enough. And I'm here to tell you that's okay. And that was something that, and I still do believe the homeschool community is still doing this. I was instructed in a lot of ways, like, oh, you're enough, it's fine, whatever you're doing is always going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that didn't help with that feeling that I wasn't enough, especially when I felt like everything I was doing
It wasn't working.
Yeah.
I love that you said that, because so many times within the homeschool community, we're just pushing past, especially if we're trying to beat this dead horse, right? Using a method of teaching and learning that doesn't suit the child that we're trying to teach. But we're going to use it until they get it. And you realize they still don't get it. We've been doing it for the whole year. Like, where are you? What's happening? Or what it is. I think the best thing you could do is to research and reach out.
Mm-hmm.
Because we won't have all the answers. That's like saying, when we hear as homeschooling moms, when we hear people say, I can't homeschool, I don't know enough, right? You're like, girl, you don't need to know it all. The whole, you're going with your kids through the curriculum, that you're learning when they're learning. You're learning when they're learning, but this is the same principle, right?
Yeah, well, it's different because I'm not dyslexic, as far as I know. And if I am, I'm not profoundly dyslexic. I got through school just fine. So me going through teaching my kids stuff that I actually learned, and all I got to do is have something to teach me how to teach them. I have a level of training in that. I mean, it's not quite the same, but I have a level of training in that because I went through it. If I'm trying to teach my child that's dyslexic, and I've never had to go through a dyslexic course, or I've never had any type of special training to help me to do that, I'm lost,
Right. So there's still like that. I need to reach out and get help, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
that might be training for you.
Yeah, that may be training. That may be someone else, like outsourcing, which brings us to the next point. It's okay to reach out and get help.
It's
like
okay.
Dinah said, sometimes you are not enough. Sometimes you don't have that skill set. There are people who go through, and different types of training for years and all the things. Reach out to them. Learn from those resources. Not saying that you can't reach out and get the information that you need from those people to teach your child.
You can train.
Yes, but also there are people you can reach out to that can help you and they can do it for you, right?
Often your public school district will have those kind of programs.
Yes.
Not every school district does, but a lot of them do. And since we've lived here in Texas, I've taken full advantage.
And it doesn't mean you're putting your kid in school. That just means you're allowing your child to have the resources available so that they can get the help they need with whatever learning challenges they might have.
Yes.
And the help that you need.
Yes.
Right? So,
which kind of goes into like getting them diagnosed.
It is. And that's where we're at on this journey, which has kind of been a pain in the butt for me. Because it's been difficult. Once you get into Diana's proof that once you get into the district and they've got things set up for you, the hardest part is like getting in to make sure they get it done. So that's where I'm at. And if you watched our previous video, you know it's because our boys were in school for a week. They lasted for a whole week before I pulled them, yanked them back out. Really, it was no. I think that once you start homeschooling, your tolerance for shenanigans is zero.
Yeah, I agree with you.
It's zero.
You're like, you got this much of a window to do something wrong with mine.
This much.
Nope. Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
I do it myself.
Right. So
it's like a bad meal, and you cook well. You will be quick to like, I ain't paying for this. I'm like, no, I don't want to make it. So I'm cool. Let's go eat this to add some salt. Sorry.
So the school that they were in at that time was gonna be able to test my youngest, and now we don't have that. So now I'm back on the wagon of trying to get our school district, which should be easy according to friends of mine, but had not been before this. So I'm gonna reach out to them again so I can get him tested. And it's not. I am a huge advocate for making sure I know what my kids need. So backstory to help kind of like make this more understandable. My daughter was in school for 5th grade only. Our oldest child, my son. Our oldest child, who's my daughter, my husband and I's daughter, was in school for 5th grade. And I still had papers of hers as I was going through some of our old homeschool stuff and just school things that I kept from her time in school. And I saw some of the notes the teacher wrote. Now, mind you, she did well in school. It wasn't bad, but there were some notes on some things which is just like, yeah, this wasn't great. And the way that the teacher put it, I never showed my daughter. It was for me. And sometimes we need to realize that for the testing for my son, it's not so he can know, oh man, this is what's wrong. It's so I'll probably never show him. I mean, maybe when he's an adult and he's achieved a certain level of success so he can see.
Oh, when they're a teenager, you need to humble him.
So he can see. Yeah, I hear that. So you can see, like, this is what they said, but this is what you did, right? Yeah. You achieved this beyond measure, right? So it helps to have that. But it's for me, really. I want to make sure he gets tested so I know how to help him best. And that's what you need to understand, too. To reach out to get the help that you need so that you know how to, even if that help is getting your child tested, do not be afraid to do that. You need to know how to teach them, how to get them taught. Yes. Whatever it takes. You let your pride go.
Yes. I was a reluctant parent, and it's part of the mom guilt. Yeah. My son was 5th grade, and I'd known something was wrong, but I didn't want to put those titles on him because I didn't want him to use it as a crutch, and that was kind of our thing. And I have had 2 other kids that were dyslexic, and they were just I didn't understand dyslexia to the level I do now, and I listened to other people, but I went ahead and once I got the diagnosis, then I was able to understand how to educate him. Yeah. It's very hard to learn how to educate them. You're literally just shooting in the dark. How do you make a meal when you have some ingredients? You don't know if you have all of it. You have no idea. Nobody told you what skillet or anything. You just know you need to finish it and this is a deadline, a full meal. That is really hard to do. Well, that's yes. The same thing about trying to figure out your child's diagnosis if you don't know it. If yeah. somebody ahead of you with all the foo-foo degrees have actually studied this and know, take advantage. And I was a reluctant parent, I promise you. So I'm talking to you guys as a person that was once there. And my biggest regret, my husband and I, we literally sat together and we cried when we realized that we had just missed it. We missed it. We should have had him diagnosed earlier. When we saw the signs, we should have had him diagnosed, and so we can understand. Moving forward, I went ahead and put him through the school district so that they could do a full spectrum. Now, I learned that he has a good IQ. Like his IQ is in the normal range. We were concerned. But we got to see like where he was struggling. It was much more comprehensive. Furthermore, he's going to be able to take these this information, and it goes over into his college. He'll always get accommodations that he needs. Already, the school is offering him amazing accommodations. and this is like setting him up for life.
Yes.
It even works for him in his jobs.
Oh, nice.
Yes, it's for him for life.
Yes.
And so he will never be able to be fired or not given the right tools
Yeah.
in his college or whatever, because of the fact that he needs these accommodations. And so all I did was give my baby another leg up for his learning curves.
That's right. One thing you did too that I love is that you showed him videos of people who were successful and dyslexic.
Yeah.
Like, this is not this is not something that's going to keep you from achieving your goals.
Right.
You'll achieve your goals along with this, and this will be your testimony, right?
Yeah.
What's funny is, as you were talking, I'm like looking back here at your reading and spelling system with Barton, and which is that was the first aid, right, that you used.
It was a homeschool friend of mine. She has a dyslexic child. I called her like, "How you do it?" She's like, "Talk to my mom. That's what she does. She's a professional." I talked to her, and she talked me off the ledge of putting my son in public school, because where we lived there was no programs for him. She's like, "I won't help you, but I'll train him, or I'll get you a program that will train you to train him." And that was how I ended up with that. And so that's what we've done, and it's been so helpful. But even with all that we've done, he is going to always need accommodations. It's just the road he's on.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to accept that even after she told me, she's like, "Go get him tested for accommodations." Again, my head's hard. I have decided I know better. And then as we got higher up in high school, I'm like, he's gonna need accommodations.
And we've got friends here in Texas that we've met who have kids with dyslexia. I don't know what's happening, or an ADHD. I don't know what it is, because it's just rampant among everyone that we know.
Yeah.
But
It's probably the awareness more than anything.
I think so too. I think in school when we were coming up, it was just like, you learn the way that we tell you, and if you don't, you're a failure. And so many kids felt that, right? And that wasn't the case. I think for a frustration, for sure, that Diana mentioned briefly, is listening to your peers, other homeschooling peers.
They mean well.
Who mean well. They may not have kids that have learning challenges, but but yet they're telling you, don't worry, it'll work itself out. Keep doing what you're doing.
I even had teachers tell me that though.
But without having assessed your child, right, to really get a feel for what's happening. The frustration, because now you think it's you. You're like, oh, okay, well, this is definitely me now. If my kid, if they're telling me keep going, I'm keeping going, and he or she still doesn't get what's happening, or it's just taking a really long time to get to this point.
If that child has never been in public school, and so for me, that he was my first child that had never been in public school, so I literally did think it was me. I thought, this is me. This is a result of me not putting him in public school, and I thought I was a complete failure. Like, I just can't teach kids how to read, which it is a hard thing to teach kids how to read.
Yes.
So you got that against you, right?
Yes.
You have both, and then you're having people tell them, "Oh, they'll get past it." But my mommy intuition, and mind you, this was my fourth son, so it's not like I was on my first rodeo here. My mommy intuition told me something was wrong and I needed to be more proactive, and I didn't listen. And while those people meant well, and I appreciate that they were trying, I really wish I would have got an opposing thought.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whether it was talking to his doctor, my son's doctor, or just talking to somebody else, just somebody else that would have said, hey, which my mom was actually saying this, like, hey, your brother, I had to go take him to special classes. And I'm like, no, I don't think I need to do that, because like I'm homeschooling. And she's like, yeah, well, there's this program that I had to put your brother into. And I'm like,
but you're like, but I am the special class.
Yeah. But she's mom, so I'm like, oh no, you don't know what you're talking about. Right. I'm gonna do to you what my kids do to me.
Oh gosh. Another frustration is seeing your child that you've been working with regress.
Oh gosh, girl.
That
was the day I broke down and called my friend.
Oh.
It was when we have been progressing, and he took that same book and didn't know how to read it. I was like, I'll be back. Just bold. Yeah, that's hard.
Yes. I saw that. When I tell you, and I don't really talk about it with many people at all, really, but when I'm watching a child that I am teaching has sat with the other kids while they're being taught all the things, and they're having hard times remembering like dates, special dates, like important dates, like your birthday kind of dates.
How to tie your shoes.
Yeah, like little things.
Little things.
And you're just like, we've gone over this for years. Like, what do you mean?
And then when you have people who are asking, like, oh, your child doesn't know how to do this or don't know how to tie their shoes, and they don't even know what you're going through. They don't even understand, like, already you're beating yourself up. Already you're guarding them constantly, your children, like you're mama bearing, so people don't know, you know.
Because you don't want anyone to use that as their first kind of like impression of your child. You don't want them to see them and think something's wrong,
or to even decide that you are being an unsuitable homeschool mom. And that was one of my issues about reaching out for help. Since we moved here, it felt like everybody that saw his test scores, everything, like they were going to decide, like, you did this to your son, you made him that way. And I can't tell you how many days I sat crying, like, after a meeting or something, like, you don't know the story, you don't know what I've done, you don't know how much I've put aside, how many kids didn't get, my other kids didn't get the best of me, so I could give him everything. Like, you don't know the story. And it was like, your 10-minute interview with me doesn't tell you our story.
Yeah.
It's so hard because I'm already dealing with my own guilt, and yet I feel, and there probably weren't, but I felt.
You feel it.
And because sometimes they were, like, usually family members are like very overtly like saying, like, I mean, just like boldly. I'm like, well, if all my other kids know,
there it is.
Why would I just stop at this one?
All of a sudden, all of a sudden now he can't do anything.
Right, because that's the goal.
Right.
And they don't even know me.
No, not at all. But yeah, definitely the regression is a frustration, but also knowing one thing that I've done with our younger one is like memory flashcards. We go through them every single day, Monday through Friday, because
every single
school day to make sure he remembers them, and that's what's helped. And one thing, oh man,
you gotta get it into the long-term memory.
You do,
because a lot of them, their root memory, that short term.
The short term is
very hard.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
And so getting it into the long term means every day. Maybe not just for a year. Maybe it's years.
It can be years, guys.
Because you may do it for a whole year, and I'm speaking from experience. And then you don't do it for the whole summer, and you go into a new year,
or a weekend, a long weekend, a 4-day weekend break. I've had that happen. 4-day weekend break, and it's gone. That was what was weird about doing the dyslexic program versus like regular schooling. When I did that, it stuck. It was like, we haven't been here for 2 months. How is that sticking? It's like amazing and frustrating both at the same time. You're like, I don't know. I'm not gonna question it. Thank God it works. Okay,
there it is. But I will say, like, the feeling of not, and we could say it's not about us, but it is. It is about us.
It's both.
It's about the kids learning, our kids learning, and establishing a love for learning. And that's the hard part. The feeling of frustration when you have a child who has learning challenges, and they don't enjoy the learning process because it's so difficult for them.
Yeah.
And you want to instill this love of learning. You're like, don't you love it? And they're like, I did it.
Really. Yeah.
I did it. That's enough, right?
We didn't get to that level of loving to learn until 10th, 11th grade. It was a struggle, which was not the case with any of my other kids. My other kids, I have 5. They all wanted to learn. They were eager to learn. They didn't like certain subjects, but learning was something they really enjoyed doing. And now I've got a child from kindergarten. He hated it. And it was a chore. Y'all, that's another frustrating part. Because you're also like, okay, why do you hate this? Why do I need to fight with you every day? Like, why? Well, this is what we've been doing. This is what we've been doing. This is what we're going to do. And yet, you think today you're going to win. And we're like consistent parents. We don't just be like, oh, they don't want to do it today, so we don't. So for like 10 years, we're just fighting mama. So also another frustrating thing is like the fight can be for the long run, guys. And if it's not your fight, even if you were to put them in public school, now these teachers are going to fight, and you're going to fight with them for the teacher. It's a fight no matter what.
Yes.
It's a fight.
So, I feel like, I don't know, I feel like that kind of like hits all the feelings and frustrations that I've felt so far.
Lack of support.
Within the homeschool community, for sure.
I feel like a lack of support in the homeschool community as much as like, well, when we lived in Nevada from the school district.
Right. Well, Logan was so young. That was in Nevada. I didn't even know.
It wasn't an issue.
Yeah, I didn't even know then. But here, I know in Texas, they have so many resources that they offer, whether you're homeschooling or your kids are homeschooled for kids who have learning challenges, which is awesome. I think that I'm starting to see, that's what I was going to say. For Diana, that's been great, but it's been nice because you went to the homeschool conference 2 years ago?
That was last year.
Was it last? Yes, it was in 2023. We went. And
it's on here.
It is. It's on here. Shorts. But I think seeing more curriculum that's catered towards dyslexia and
yeah, you're right.
it's coming out, right? Because it's so I think there's just been a greater awareness of this is what the challenges are that our children are facing, and that we were probably facing, or some of our peers were facing when we were kind of, like Diana said, when we were coming up, and they just didn't know. So I love seeing that, and I want more of it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't necessarily want to go and see so many options that won't fit a demographic of our children that needs so much more.
You know what I'd like to see? A curriculum that would start kids, like when you have, like when we did the Barton program, I decided to take my son all the way back, probably too far, honestly, it was too far, into some math. But I'd like to have a program that would basically do what the community college did for my son. Take him from remedial math all the way to trigonometry, which was crazy. But they did it in a way that didn't feel condescending to him. So he didn't feel like he was doing little kid stuff. And it wasn't like, oh, look at the birds, and that's always really hard. If your child has dysgraphia and you're really trying to work on their penmanship, but all the writing is like, big blocky letters, and look at all the little trees, and can you write that? Well, we actually, you know what I'm saying? I would love to see something like that.
You know who does a really good job? Funschooling. I think
I did Funschooling, didn't I?
Funschooling, I have.
They have that?
They do. Funschooling, I think, is the actual brand of that's the name of their curriculum. But they do a lot of it caters towards children with dyslexia and probably other things too. And they were at the conference or the convention. So
I'm thinking I'm gonna go again. I actually am not a big conference person. I don't really.
I love it.
But I actually really I gleaned a lot from that place.
I did too.
I didn't expect to. I just went because I was at MetaShare. It was like, hey, you want a free ticket? I was like, okay. But now I'm actually like, that actually was very helpful. And it was in a beautiful place. So like, when?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna check that out because I do need I still want him to work on his penmanship a little bit there. But that's another place I would feel support. Family members, if you don't, like, my mom was always very supportive. She understood what it was like. She'd gone through all of the things I go through. And so she's always been very supportive. But I had extended family members that just didn't understand and felt the need to comment on things that they observed. And it's really hard because then you don't want to take your child around them. And I don't want my kids to not know their family, but Also, no thank you. You're not going to make them feel bad.
Right.
And I already make myself feel bad enough. I don't need your help. Like, and let me speak to you moms. Like, if you are in a circle of people that make you feel bad about this journey, this is a hard journey. You need to protect yourself and your child from them.
Yes.
Because it's already enough. We do enough to ourselves. We need people to like speak life into us, not to make us feel worse. And I passionately say that to you because it's too much already. You will give up if you don't have people that speak life into you.
That's right.
And nobody's going to love your babies more than you do. So you might go and get outside help, or you might get training yourself. My son said he was embarrassed. So he said, Mom, would you please teach me? And I promise you I will do the best I can. And so that's why I did it. But girls, guys, let me tell you, I don't want to do that. I wanted to be like, here, professional, I will give you your money and you can do this because I'm tired. But I don't think we had one day that I cried for bad reasons. I cried for good reasons doing our program though.
Nice, yeah.
Which was really nice. Like, he would have a funky attitude sometimes, but the lady, Susan Barton, she was so good about showing us the right words. And when you make a mistake, instead of adding to the frustration, like, you did that wrong, she'd be like, I'm sorry, let me try that a different way. And like, I mimicked that, which I could do that, you know. It was just a lot of tools that was very helpful. And so I think professionals, they know how to do that.
Yes.
Or you got to pay people to train you to do it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
And I think it's important to be patient. And I think patience is key in homeschooling in general.
In general.
Right? Or helping your kids with...
Any teacher should be patient.
Yes. You shouldn't let on that you're frustrated, because then they feel like, okay, I'm not, something's wrong with me.
Yeah.
And we don't want that. Our goal is to make them feel supported and to let them know that we're along the journey with, that they're in alongside of them, right? Mm-hmm. We're coming alongside them to help them. So especially when you're helping your kids with learning challenges or you're teaching them, be patient. If you need to take a break and go, all right, we're going to take a quick break, we'll come back in 5 minutes. Keep yourself composed and go wherever you got to go, scream in your pillow in your closet where no one can hear you, or cry, whatever you got to do, and then come back with a joyful heart, right? Because I feel like it's...
But this is one of the reasons why I did tell my son his diagnosis. When we talked, we would say, he would get frustrated, and I would say, hey, so remember I told you that we found out you're profoundly dyslexic, right? So this is what that means. It doesn't mean that you get any easier. It just means that you have to, like, your brain is doing this to make a pathway, and we want to stretch it out. Yeah. So we're stretching that out, and it's going to be uncomfortable. And so I did tell him his diagnosis, and I explained to him, like, we took a deep dive on what that means. I showed him, like, your daddy is, we didn't know it, but he is. My dad is. My brother is. You actually got it on both sides of the family, and the fact that we only have one of you profoundly dyslexic is kind of a miracle. And so, like, it was no longer, kind of like with ADHD, the way they can hyper-focus.
Oh, yes.
It was no longer this crutch he had to carry. I told him, I was like, you're going to work harder than other people, but it also is a superpower, because you're going to outthink them.
Yes.
And think differently, So we use it as a tool. I mean, you can take that, but however you want to use it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's good.
I think so, too. Don't forget, if y'all have any questions or comments, or if your kid or yourself are struggling with any of the feelings and frustrations that we mentioned, tell us below so we can have a conversation about it.
Yeah.
And that way we know if we need to make another video and kind of show our journey. Because I feel like at least for me and Diana, we do our best to protect our kids from the internet in a way where they're exposed. But also I realize there's a certain level of just transparency that we have to have in order to help people who might be going through some of the same things that we're going through.
Although we use no names. Although if you know our family, you
probably
know.
Yes, and I don't know if that will change in the future as, like, I'm doing lessons and maybe I'm showing and helping. I don't know, but for now, like, there's still this you know, we
We're
still want to
still homemakers.
guard and protect and all the things. But yeah, let's still have a conversation about it. Don't forget, in the description below, we have our homeschooling guide to homeschooling, ultimate guide to homeschooling, and our
75 resources, free resources. Well, they're not all free, but the 75 resource page is free
Yes.
for you on our website, and you can get that, download that, and it'll help you, help a friend. And if you have resources you'd like to share, put those in the comment section below, and support each other
Yes.
in the comment section below. Because guys, that's the biggest thing. That was why we made this video. It's because so many times no one told us, and we wanted to feel supported. We want you to feel supported. So
Yes.
support one another.
All right.
All right. It's nice seeing you guys. Bye.